Hi friends, myself Dr. Gurmeet Singh Basan, and I welcome you all to my channel for the new series of lectures on projection of solids, a very important chapter of engineering drawing. Now before solving examples of projections of solids, it is very important to learn about basics of projections and fundamentals of solids, its classifications, etc. So friends, let us begin our first session of projection of solids. Now, first of all, what is solid? You must be knowing that solid is nothing but an object which has three dimensions. That means it has length, width and the thickness. That is to be called as a solid. There are various types of solids, so we have to classify the solids mainly in two different categories. So these two groups, one is known as a polyhedra. Now what is polyhedra? It consists of poly as well as hedra. Okay, so poly means many and hedra means sides or the faces. So it consists of two words, that is polyhedra. So solid consists of many sides or many faces, that is to be considered as a polyhedra. Second one is the solids of revolution. So when you revolve the solid, a plane figure about one of its edges, then you are getting the another types of solids. So let us describe one by one about the different types of solids. So first is a polyhedra. Now what do you mean by a polyhedra? So polyhedra is defined as a solid which is bounded by planes called as faces, which meet in straight line, that is to be called as edges. Okay, so that is to be called as polyhedra. So there are many regular polyhedras, some of which may be defined as stated below. One is known as a prism. What is prism and what are the other types of the polyhedra we discuss in detail after this particular slides also. So one is known as a prism, second is a pyramid, third is a tetrahedron, fourth is cube or hexahedron. Hexa means 6 and hadron means sides. Fifth is octahedron. Octa means 8 and hadron means sides. So the solid consists of 8 sides, that is to be called as octahedron. The other one is a dodecahedron. Dodeca means it is 12 and hadron means sides. So a solid consists of 12 sides or the faces, that is to be considered as a dodecahedron. And icosahedron means 20. Icosa means 20 and hedron means faces. Okay, so there are so many types of polyhedras are there, but out of these polyhedras, mainly we have to concern about prism, pyramid, tetrahedron or cube or the hexahedron. So we mainly concern and mainly discussing about these four types of the polyhedras in detail and how to draw the projection of these solids. Okay, that also we are discussing. Now, what is known as a prism? First one. So prism is nothing but is a polyhedra having two equal and similar faces called its end or bases, parallel to each other and joined by other faces which are always in the rectangles. So let us take one example here. It has two similar faces. They are called as bases. One is a top base, another is a bottom base. They are similar one, okay, and they are to be bounded by the number of faces. And these faces have been separated by the edges. Okay, the imaginary line joining the center of one of the base to the other bases, that is to be called as axis of the prism. So one thing you keep in your mind, whenever the word prism comes, it has the two bases. One is a top base, another is a bottom base, and they are similar and identical to each other, and they are bounded by the number of rectangles. Okay, now depending upon the shape of the base, we classify the prisms into the different categories. So according to the shape of this base, prism can be sub-classified into the different types. So triangular faces, so that depends upon the triangle. So when the base are triangle, that is to be known as a triangular prism. Square prism, when the bases are square, then it is to be called as square prism. When the bases are pentagonal shape, okay, both the bases are pentagonal shape, it is called as a pentagonal prism. And when the bases are hexagonal shape, it is to be considered as a hexagonal prism, and so on. Now the second one is a pyramid. So how we define a pyramid? So pyramid is also a polyhedra having plane surface as a base and number of triangular faces which are meeting at a point which is to be called as a vertex or apex. So here this is a plane figure called as a base, and this is to be considered as a vertex or apex. Okay. Now remember that this is a face. Faces are always a triangular shape, and it is to be separated by the edges, and the imaginary line joining apex to the center of the base, that is to be called as axis of the pyramid. Again, the pyramid can be classified into number of subdivisions, so and that is also depending upon the shape of the base. So what do we mean by triangular pyramid? So triangular pyramid means base is a triangle, okay, so that is known as a triangular pyramid. Square pyramid means base is a square, it is to be considered as a square pyramid. Again, the pentagonal pyramid, when the base is a pentagonal shape, it is to be called as a pentagonal pyramid, and when the base is a hexagonal shape, it is to be considered as a hexagonal pyramid. Okay. Now I'll give you one more point also, that while drawing, the students, they make mistakes while taking the prism and pyramid. In number of times they consider pyramid as a prism and the prism as a pyramid also. So be aware, think twice to take the solids first. Okay. So pyramid means always it has a vertex and has one base, and prism is to be considered as the two bases and is bounded by the rectangles. Okay. So keep this in your mind while drawing the pyramid or the prism. Now the second classification comes for the solids of revolution. Now what do we mean by the solids of revolution? So when a solid is generated by revolutions of a plane figure about a fixed line, then such solids are named as solids of revolution. So they can be classified into different categories. One is a cylinder, another is a cone, third is a sphere, fourth is ellipsoid, fifth is paraboloid, sixth is hyperboloid. Okay, so out of these we have to mainly consider about the cylinder, cone. Now let us take one by one. What do you mean by a cylinder? So cylinder is nothing. A right regular cylinder is a solid generated by the revolution of the rectangle about its vertical side which remain fixed. So here this is the axis or one of the side of the rectangle. Now if we revolve this rectangle about this particular edge, then you are getting a cylinder. Okay, so this is how we are getting the cylinder, and this is known as a solid of revolution of a plane figure. So this is a plane rectangle which we revolve to get a cylinder. Similarly, we can get the cone also. So cone is nothing but a right circular cone is a solid generated by a revolution of a right angle triangle. Okay, in the previous cylinder we have taken as a rectangle, here we are taking as a right angle triangle about its vertical side which remains fixed. So here this is a right angle triangle, this side we take it as a fixed side and about which the right angle triangle will revolve, then we are getting a right circular cone. Okay, so this is how we are getting the cone, and axis, as you know, that it is joining the midpoint of the base to the apex or the vertex, that is to be called as axis. The periphery of the base, when it is joined to the apex or vertex, that is to be considered as the generators. Now after knowing about different types of solids, there are various important terms which are used in the projection of solids, and they are very important to learn about. Unless until you don't know about these terms, you are not able to solve the examples on the projection of solid. What is known as right solid? So in this case, a solid is said to be a right solid if its axis is perpendicular to the base. So this axis is perpendicular to the base, then that solid is always considered as a right solid. Okay. And another one is a oblique solid. Oblique means other than 90 degree. So a solid is said to be an oblique solid if its axis is inclined at an angle other than 90 degree to its base. So this axis is inclined other than 90 degree to the base, then this solid is known as oblique solid. Another one is the regular solid. Now what do we mean by a regular solid? So in this case, a solid is said to be a regular solid if all the edges of the base or the end faces of the solid are equal in length and form regular plane figure. So when all these sides of the base, they are of equal size, equal length, then that solid is to be considered as a regular solid. Okay. Then the frustum of a solid. Now what do we mean by a frustum? So when you cut the solid parallel to its base, then whatever the figure you are getting, that is to be known as a frustum. So when a pyramid or cone is cut by a plane parallel to its base and we are removing the top of the portions, the remaining lower portion is to be called as frustum of a solid. So here this is a cutting plane. This is a square pyramid, and when the square pyramid cut by a plane which is parallel to the base, okay, and we are removing the top portion, the remaining portion is to be considered as frustum of a pyramid. Then the truncated one. So it is similar to the frustum of a solid. The only difference is in frustum the cutting plane is parallel to the base, and in truncated it is inclined to the base. So when a pyramid or a cone is cut by a plane inclined to its base and thus removing the top portion, the remaining lower portion is said to be truncated. So this plane is at certain angle to the base, then this is to be considered as truncated pyramid. This is the cutting plane which is inclined to the base, and this is how we are getting the truncated solid. So these are the various terms which are used in projection of the solid. So friends, in this video I discussed about the basic fundamentals of solids, its classifications and various types. Thank you all and have a nice time.